Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Raider Football, where today we are going to be looking at last week's contest where the Riverdale Raiders fell short to the Ida Baker Bulldogs by a 17-7 loss at Carl Engel Field on the campus of Riverdale High School, and we are going to be reviewing tonight's varsity football contest as the Raiders travel on the road and what may be the biggest game in the regular season schedule. It's the Riverdale Raiders and the Gulf Coast Sharks in Naples, Florida. So Riverdale going on the road, but either way, this is going to be a huge game. Riverdale going into Naples tonight with a 2-win, 3-loss record, sinking below 500 to that loss versus the Bulldogs last week, which we will talk about in just a brief moment. Meanwhile, Gulf Coast, they are 5-1 on the regular season schedule, and overall they definitely have been making a name for themselves in the Class 7A District 12 standings. So let's take a look at how that division has been going. Gulf Coast is on the top, just one win above South Fort Myers. The Sharks are 5-1. South Fort Myers in that center spot with a 4-win, 1-loss record. And meanwhile, Riverdale is right at the bottom in the number 3 ranking, 2-3 on the season. So they definitely have some work to do, but Riverdale, they have a chance to win the division tonight, no doubt about it. The good thing about tonight is that this is game 1 of 2 division contests throughout the regular season. The next divisional contest is going to be on October 16th. When Riverdale returns home to take on the South Fort Myers Wolfpack. So the great thing for Riverdale is if they lose tonight's contest, and they have another shot to win the division, but you want to start off well tonight, and the best they can do is win both of those games, and if they do, then they will reign supreme as the division champs. So hopefully Riverdale can earn that playoff spot, but it all begins tonight. So let's take a little more of a closer look at the Gulf Coast Sharks out of Naples, Florida. They're coached by Pete Fomenea. And their district, they are 0-0. Tonight's going to be their first district contest of the season, and that's the same for Riverdale as well. And the national ranking, the Sharks are 2,404. And in the state of Florida, their ranking is number 170. So they definitely, like we just said, they have something to prove in the rankings. But Riverdale, tonight is their chance to really turn things around in the season. They have come over a little bit of some rough bounces in the past couple of weeks. So if they want to start things up again, tonight is the night. Now it's time to take a look at last week's contest where the Raiders returned home to Carl Engel Field to take on the Ida Baker Bulldogs. The Raiders fell to a 17-6 final score. And in the first half, it looked like it was all Raiders. In the first quarter of play, it was 0-0, no scoring on there. But in the second, things started off right. With around 9 minutes left in the quarter, Daniel Ulmer, the starting quarterback, rushed in a 15-yard touchdown to make the score 6-0. The Raiders' offensive line tried to go for a 2-point conversion where Ulmer rushed the ball again, but he was stopped just short of the goal line, and your score remained at 6-0. At the end of your second quarter of play, you had the kicker for Ida Baker come out, David Montoya, but he sent a kick just wide of the uprights, and your score stayed at 6-0 with that failed field goal. But in that second half, it was all Ida Baker. 2 touchdowns were brought in, plus a field goal from Montoya, who made things right by the end of the game. It combined for a 17-6 final score. And overall, it was just great defense coming from Ida Baker, and those 2 second-half touchdown passes are what really rallied the Bulldogs over Riverdale. And those 2 touchdowns from Ida Baker were scored by the wide receiver Rashid Golden, Once again, the reception came from your starting quarterback, Jordan Diggs. So Diggs and Golden, they were able to connect with those 2 second-half touchdowns, one in the third, one in the fourth, to make it 14-6, and then you add the David Montoya field goal, made it 17-6, and that is how the competition ended. It really was disappointing for Riverdale to lose that contest because, like I just mentioned, it was all of them in the first half. I guess it was still even matchup between the two teams, but Riverdale, it seemed like they were very comfortable with bringing the ball down the field. They showed confidence on the defensive line, but then in the second half, things just fell apart for some odd reason. And Ida Baker, they shifted the momentum and carried it for the win. Riverdale ended up hurting itself with 6 fumbles, losing 3 of them. So that's a big thing that the Raiders need to crack down on. And we actually saw a fumble right towards the end of the game where Riverdale came down to their last chance to keep the game alive. So those turnovers, they can really make or break a game. And turnovers are one of the most crucial parts of the game of football because it doesn't matter if you have the lead. When you give up the ball to the opposing team, you're giving up scoring opportunities. So that's something that Riverdale really needs to work on, in my honest opinion. So, in your scoring summary, Ida Baker and Riverdale had a scoreless first quarter. Ida Baker actually brought in a field goal in the third, which is something that I did not mention. Overall, David Montoya actually had 2 field goals in your second quarter of play. One was failed, which was your final play of the second half, but Montoya was also able to bring in a successful field goal. So, once again, pardon me for that. A little bit of a statistical error. But David Montoya did make 1 successful field goal on the night, and that was in the second quarter once again. So 3 points for Ida Baker in the second, and Riverdale scored in that touchdown from Daniel Ulmer, which was that 15-yard rush, a quarterback keeper. But then Rasheed Golden was able to get 2 touchdown receptions, one in the third, one in the fourth, 17-6. That game is in the books. And once more, the Riverdale Raiders dropped down to 2 wins and 3 losses on the season. Ida Baker, 2 wins and 3 losses as they are coached by Brian Kahn. So like I said, it's never too late to get back into the season as we now head towards our second half of the season. Game 6 of 10 tonight for Riverdale on the road at Gulf Coast. So be sure to come out to that game. There's been a lot of hype around Riverdale High School this week for the ball game. It really is going to be a fun contest, so make sure to come out and cheer on your Raiders on the road if you'd like to make the road trip out. The distance between Riverdale and Gulf Coast is just about half an hour, so be sure to come out, make the brief road trip, and cheer on your Raiders as they try to win their division. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, this is game 1 of 2 total divisional contests. The next one is going to be on the 16th of October versus South Fort Myers. But we have a few more games ahead of that. Our next home game is what we should be discussing, and that will be on October 9th, next Friday night, so a week from tonight. Riverdale will play DeSoto County, coming all the way out from Arcadia to Riverdale. DeSoto County, they are known as the Bulldogs, so Riverdale and the DeSoto County Bulldogs facing off one more time at Riverdale High School in Fort Myers, Florida. That's actually going to be your homecoming contest at RHS. So it's going to be a huge contest. I can already tell you right here, right now, there's going to be a big show on hand in the stands. So a lot of fans are going to be out there. It is going to be a nice environment for some football. So once again, be sure to come out and cheer on your Raiders, hopefully tonight in Naples. And of course, you have to make your way out to Riverdale High School next Friday night, where they play the DeSoto County Bulldogs. According to the website I'm looking off of, The Riverdale versus DeSoto County game is going to start up at 7:30. So Riverdale plays their homecoming game October 9th at 7:30 p.m. Be sure to make your way out, and tonight's game, Riverdale at Gulf Coast, is going to be at 7 p.m. So, once again, make sure to attend those games if you would like. It's going to be very competitive in the upcoming week, or weeks rather, I should say, pardon me there. It's going to be big as we head towards the back half of the season. So, be sure to keep track with the Riverdale Raiders, and hopefully we can have a positive outcome to this regular season. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of This Week in Raider Football. This is Nick Rush saying thank you for hanging around with us on this great Friday afternoon. I'm not sure how it is in Naples tonight, but I can tell you here in Fort Myers it is a beautiful blue sky outside, so I'm sure the weather is going to hold up for us tonight, and it's going to be a good one. Thanks for listening to tonight's preview of Riverdale versus Gulf Coast. We will see you next week for Riverdale versus DeSoto County here on This Week in Raider Football. This is Nick Rush saying so long, and we will see you next week.